Okay, hello and welcome back. I would like to end this code within a code section of the course with a very recent discovery that once again shows the just unfathomable complexity of DNA and how it is conveying multiple layers of information in a way that not only defies chance, because we've already seen that simple linear information defies chance, but in a way that really cannot be anything except the product of not only an intelligent design, but of a supremely intelligent design. To start this part off, I want to call uh, our attention to something that we probably haven't explicitly thought about. We've already talked about how DNA is a double helix. It's a helical structure, and that, of course, was the famous discovery of Watson and Crick. But when you have a helix, there are actually, again, mirror images. Chirality, if you remember back when we were talking about amino acids and we talked about L amino acids and their mirror image D amino acids and how our body only uses L amino acids. Well, if you have the helix as a mathematical structure, it can be a so-called right-handed helix or a left-handed helix. And they are non-superimposable mirror images of each other. There are a couple of different ways to think about that. If you point your thumb in the direction of that the helix is going from bottom to top, then you wrap your fingers along the direction of the turns. In the right-handed helix, you would have to use your right hand to do that. For the left-handed helix, to wrap your fingers in the direction of the turns, you would need to use your left-handed helix. Your left hand, I'm sorry. Another way to think about it is that if you're looking down the bore of the helix and looking at the way the turns are going, in the right-handed helix, they will be turning clockwise. In the left-handed helix, they will be turning counterclockwise. In any case, suffice it to say that the helix can be right-handed or left-handed. And it turns out that our DNA is a right-handed helix, just like our amino acids are the L amino acids. In the scientific literature, the right-handed helix is known as bDNA. And it was discovered that since a helix can be actually its mirror image, that bDNA could be made to switch to the left-handed helix, which is known as zDNA. And for a long time, this was thought to be just an idle curiosity that had really no practical significance. And then very recently, it was discovered that within the normal stretches of bDNA, the right-handed helical DNA, that there are short stretches of zDNA, and that these occur dynamically, if you will, that sometimes they're there, sometimes the DNA will flip a short segment to the left-handed helix, and then unflip it again to the right-handed helix. And when it does that, if you flip from right to left, that is known as a BZ junction, the junction of bDNA with zDNA. And two of the bases then at that junction have to stick outside the helix. There's no other way to do it. And it turns out that DNA dynamically does this as a regulatory mechanism for when and how much and where RNA is to be transcribed. It helps with the regulation of RNA transcription. This was actually quite a stunning discovery. And if you look here at this article from the scientist and look closely at the date, you see that this is June 2020. So you can see that we are now right at the cutting edge for when these lectures are being taped. And it has been discovered that this dynamic switching from bDNA to zDNA is part of the multiple layers of information that DNA uses not only to specify the RNA and the proteins, but to specify the regulation again of how and when, etc. And so let us read this quote from the article, and it is quoting one molecular biologist. For Herbert, the biological relevance of zDNA is massive, as he suspects that flips in DNA chirality influence how RNA molecules are processed across the genome. He suggests that the formation of zDNA and the localization of Z-binding proteins during transcription could quickly turn on and off the editing of RNA products at many active genes. And we've seen this editing in the form of splicing and so forth. So this is, remember when we looked at the second DNA code, the code within a code, and Professor Trifonov saying, there have been 5, 6, 7 second codes. Well, this is yet a new quote-unquote second code, yet another layer of information within the DNA that is regulating how RNA is being transcribed and edited. And this discovery is so recent that its details are now, I don't even want to say just beginning to be unraveled. People are just beginning to work on how they're going to unravel these details. But once again, I hope that the bottom line message here is clear. And this bottom line message really we can find in a nice article from Genome Research way back now in 2007 that again is talking about evolution and multi-level optimization of the genetic code. And again, let me use the words of the authors to bring the message home. The ability to encode hidden messages is a direct result of the redundancy of the code. This concept of simultaneously communicating two messages, one of which is more obvious and detailed than the other, is similar to that of providing a template for an amino acid sequence together with non-coding information in a nucleotide sequence. And we've seen now, sorry I'm going to interrupt the reading here, we've seen that DNA is not simultaneously communicating two messages, it's simultaneously communicating numerous messages. Now let's continue. As we learn more about the functions of the genetic code, it becomes ever clearer that the degeneracy in the genetic code is not exploited in such a way as to optimize one function, but rather to optimize a combination of several different functions simultaneously. Looking deeper into the structure of the code, we wonder what other remarkable properties it may bear. While our understanding of the genetic code has increased substantially over the last decades, it seems that exciting discoveries are waiting to be made. And of course, the B and Z DNA has been just one of those discoveries, and God knows best what the future holds. But even with just what we know now, even if no more discoveries were made, I cannot think of a stronger case for intelligent design than the material that we have covered. I hope you'll keep joining us because there's still more to come. Assalamu alaikum.